So you have to be careful, but as long as you're not changing your lifestyle at all, and you can, as you mentioned, just kind of fit these spending requirements and all that kind of stuff in with your day-to-day life, you come out ahead.
Hello and welcome to the Wholesale Made Easy podcast, where we believe selling on Amazon shouldn't be hard, and we're going to prove it. My name is Dylan Carter, and I'm one of the co-founders at Vendrive, a tool that helps Amazon wholesale sellers streamline their businesses, stay organized, and land more profitable accounts. I'm sitting down with other successful wholesale sellers, and together we're sharing lessons learned and what it really takes to succeed with wholesale. Today, I wanted to bring you something unexpected but incredibly useful, not only for your business, but your own personal life as well. Many of you don't know this, but I'm a travel hacker. No, not like a Russian hacker, but more like George Clooney in the movie Up in the Air. We use simple strategies to gain incredibly cheap travel, and the strategies are made even easier if you run a business. So I brought my friend Bryce Conway, one of the founders of 10xtravel.com, who initially taught me everything I know about travel hacking, to give you a high-level overview of how you can use travel hacking within your own business to increase your lifestyle and enjoy more perks of being a business owner. All right, Bryce, thanks for taking some time with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I'm excited.
So you shifted my perspective on a few things a few years ago, and I actually found out about you through a YouTube post of the newsreel that you did like forever ago.
Yeah.
And I found out about 10xtravel.com, which it wasn't that. It was named differently beforehand. And yeah, you opened my eyes up to travel hacking, and it's been kind of going ever since. But we're really going to talk about how that applies to being a business owner, because there's a lot of extra goodies packaged in there. Can you explain how you got into travel hacking, and then how that applies to not only being a person and doing this yourself, but as a business owner as well?
Yeah, man. I mean, how much time do you have? There's a lot to unpack there. So,
True.
Well, I'll start with the Genesis story. So I got into travel hacking almost like by accident in my senior year of college. I went to school in Ohio. It gets cold in Ohio. It's cold here right now. And during my senior year, I was talking with some friends about what our plans were for spring break. I think it was like December. That's when you start planning for spring break in April. So we were looking at places to go. Almost everyone in Ohio at the time would go down to Panama City, Florida for the week, which is, certainly not a short drive from Ohio. So I was looking at options to fly or even like carpool with some friends. Knew I didn't have a whole lot of money to use on spring break. So I was trying to like find one of these opportunities you hear about where you like take a last minute package or like do a day of work and like someone will subsidize or pay for your trip. So I was like looking around the internet for one of those. After a couple hours, I couldn't find even like any mention of that even happening. Like, I think that's like an urban legend at this point. So I was making, all of the plans in my head to have to go home for spring break because I couldn't afford to go down to Florida. But from that point forward, I noticed that basically every advertisement online when I open a browser was for like travel credit cards. And each of them basically had the same hook. It was like 2 free flights if you open this card, or 50,000 points, or, cash back or whatever. So, but at the time, like I was desperate enough for spring break and, young enough to be reckless. I saw an ad for a card that said 2 free flights, and I was like, you know what? Let's do it. Let's see if this will get me spring break. So I opened the card. They approved me for a pretty high credit limit, especially for a college kid that my only income was being a tour guide. I used it to like pay for textbooks and some stuff so that I jumped through the hoops they required. And lo and behold, I got 2 free flights. So I cashed them in. I ended up flying from Ohio to Panama City. And then because I had 2 free flights, I used the other one for Panama City to Las Vegas, like for the second half of spring break, and then Vegas home. Did the entire thing for just taxes and fees. Had an awesome time on spring break, and knew like, okay, when I come home, something bad's gonna happen, right? There's got to be a catch. So had a great time, got home, and at that point, it's kind of like waiting for like what's gonna happen, right? Is the bank going to get upset with me and like call me? Like, is this illegal? You know, what's going to happen?
Like
So
SWAT's waiting at your dorm.
yeah, I mean, it wasn't out of the realm of possibility in my mind, right? So, and really everything that happened from there forward was the opposite. Like I got more credit card offers from the same bank. My credit score went up. Cops never came. I never got arrested. So I kind of just, you know, the natural thought at that point is like, why wouldn't I just do this again? So I just Googled like open credit cards to travel for free. And that's where I went down the wormhole where, you know, there's thousands of people already doing this on their online forums at the time. Flyer Talk is where I spent most of my time online. And from there, I just kind of continued to refine it, learn from others. And, you know, eventually it led to a business. Do you want me to like finish the story about the business or should we stop there?
So what year was that when you got that first card?
2011 is when the trip happened. So I probably opened the card in late 2010.
Okay. So it's been a while. And the cool thing is, this isn't really that new. Like
No.
once you get into it, you're like, oh, this has been around for a while. And there's a huge community of people who just geek out with points. And I mean, there's even movies slightly about this.
Up in the air.
Yeah, like Up in the Air. That's like the only one, but
yeah. Yeah.
But it's cool because it kind of, at least for me, it made me question all the things that I wanted to be able to do that I might not like financially have been able to do, and think about things differently. And it was kind of like the catalyst for that. And so you mentioned that story parlayed into a business, which is 10xtravel.com. So tell us a bit about that and what you do there.
Yeah. So I'll take you back to the beginning again. So kind of picking up where we left off, started to do this more and more, right? Taking more and more trips. And as I get better at it, I'm able to do better trips, right? Starting to fly in first class, taking my wife, you know, we went to Paris for a weekend one time, like for 2 days. And, you know, of course, in the age of social media, everyone's watching what you do. And it got to a point where I was getting a lot of questions from friends like, hey, you just graduated college. Like, I'm pretty sure you're not making a ton of money. How are you going to Paris for the weekend in first class and things like this? So start to kind of tell like friends one at a time as they ask, like, here's how I do it. Here's kind of the basics, you know, telling them what I learned so far. And that just kind of kept on cascading, like friend to friend, and got to a point where it was like kind of problematic for my social life, where I'd go out to like a happy hour or something. And within 10 minutes, I'm like in the corner surrounded by people who are looking for information. And it becomes like these like seminars where I'm saying the same thing over and over. So just like for my own convenience, I started to type out like this lengthy email, like, here's what you need to know. Here are the basics. So that when people would approach me in social situations and be like, hey, how does this work? I could be like, let me stop you right there. I'm having fun. I'm just going to forward you this email. Let's start with that. Right. And as I get like the same questions over and over, I would add to the email so that there's fewer questions back and forth. So email gets to like many, many pages long. And of course, more and more people keep approaching me. And that's like the classic all-American, like, hey, when people keep coming up for you, like getting advice on something or you're helping them with something, you should probably start a business. So I did, thanks to a nudge from my business partner at the time. And he showed me that the URL getfreeflights.com was available for like $9.99. That's $9.99. And I was like, that no brainer. Like, how many people Google get free flights?
Right.
Tons. Turns out tons.
That's kind of perfect.
So, yeah, bought the domain, did some tweaks to that long email, and made it into like this really sketchy looking ebook, and launched like a one-page website, basically with like all the worst sales copy and marketing that you see on the internet, with like the big red letters, like airlines hate him, you know.
Oh, that's great.
Like, BuzzFeed would have thought that we were spammy, because we didn't know what we were doing, right? So launched that, sold ebook for like $47. And then got really lucky on the launch because like I think it was a week after we launched, I got approached by ABC. They had seen like, I forget how the announcement or how the connection was made, but they had seen some of my work, and they wanted to do like a special on like the travel hacker guy. So I went filmed for 2 days with them, and that ended up going on most of their programming. It was on Good Morning America, it was on Nightline and ABC World News. So there were like over 10 million people who watched this bit. And I was just expecting like, oh man, we're about to hit it big time.
Yeah, that's an incredible launch.
I'm going to sell a ton of books. It's getting ready for the big time. And that came and went. It aired, and I sold like less than 50 books.
Really?
And yeah, I was like shocked, devastated. That was very disappointing. And I've come to realize it's because our website and marketing copy sucked, and the average person does not believe, look at this guy who travels for free and he's selling a book on how to do it. Like, okay, good luck with that. So that was kind of a big flop. But one of the good things that came out of that is I was approached by someone who I think it was with Barclays Bank at the time. And they were like, hey, we saw you on the news and you talked about one of our cards in particular. Would you like to, discuss opportunities to become like an affiliate for this card? And when I was on the phone with them, I like Googled credit card affiliate. Like, I'm like, I don't even know what that is. And so, kind of like BS my way through this. I call like, yeah, absolutely. We've been thinking about this for a while now. Got like, signed up with them. And then that allowed us to really change the entire business model from, hey, buy my, $47 ebook to now blog regularly, create content. And, thanks to affiliate, relationships with most major banks in the world, they pay us. And so all of our stuff is free. So, and then finally got around to rebranding from Get Free Flights to today we're 10X Travel. It's been that way for about 3 years now. And that has made a huge difference too, in terms of like the type of folks who are stopping by our site and our ability to work out advertising deals. It's a little bit more, it's a lot more legitimate and professional sounding than getfreeflights.com. So that's kind of led us to where we are today. Lots of other little kinks and twists in the road, but that's kind of the highlights. So
yeah, and the change is really interesting because it's really it's a way, like you said, that allows you to focus on the value side, on the content side, and building that brand, but also being able to continue doing it. And so I remember, because I was around when you guys did the brand change, I'm like, 10X Travel. I was like, that's perfect. It's great. And so actually, like I said before, I found you through that ABC video on YouTube. I was like, really?
Yeah.
But I'm the guy who goes down the rabbit hole. So I'm like, let's go. And then I realized there's this whole community, and it's not fake. It's not, quote unquote hacking,
right.
Airlines, which I had somebody ask me one day. They're like, what do you like? You hack the airlines for travel? I'm like, no, oh my God. That's not what we're doing.
All the time. Yeah. I really wish that we could go back and find like whoever invented that like phrase,
that term. Yeah.
And just be like, stop, don't do it. But that's unfortunately what our community has been come to be called. So
yeah, everything is something hack for some reason, but
yeah.
So like describe like high level how this works. Like, what is travel hacking? How does it come to be? What do you typically do? Like, what does that look like?
Sure. So how does travel hacking work? So series of kind of questions I'll pose to you. So number one is, have you ever opened a credit card before?
Yes.
Okay. So when you chose that card, or when you ended up opening that card, did they give you any sort of incentive to open it? Cash, like a bonus of cash back?
Yeah.
Or point or something? Yeah. Right. So, but I'm guessing you probably looked at like more than one offer that had some sort of bonus. So in theory, why wouldn't you open like 3 of them or 5 of them if they each give you something to do so? Well, most people would answer that question by saying, doesn't that hurt your credit score to open like 5 credit cards at once? And you would think yes, but the answer is no. And there's a much longer and complicated answer as to why that works. It took me an entire book to kind of explain it. But the long and short of it is that your credit score is based almost entirely on how you use existing credit. So when you open more credit and use it responsibly, helps your score. So when you open 5 credit cards, 10 credit cards, even 15 credit cards in a year, that actually helps your score in some cases very dramatically, which kind of creates an interesting scenario. It's almost as if like, imagine it was normal for every job in the world to offer a signing bonus of $50,000 and an annual salary of $10,000, right? If that was the situation, how long would you stick around to any one job?
Right. Yeah. Not very long.
Right. Only long enough to earn the bonus until you get another one. Right. And credit cards run on the same structure. They give you this huge bonus up front, usually 50,000, sometimes 100,000 points. For the average person, it's going to take you, I don't know, 5 years just to earn that same bonus again.
Mm-hmm.
So why would you not just hop from one card to the next just to continue their bonuses? And that's 80% of what we do in travel hacking. We, of course, there's some strategy for, which card do you pick and how do certain points work well together. But what it really comes down to is just hopping from one bonus to the next. And these bonuses can have, significant value. You see some commercials on TV for credit cards that will give you like $100 to sign up. But some of these travel cards have bonuses that are worth, $600 or more. So when even if you do like a couple of those, that covers, a pretty nice vacation for the average person. And then as you scale that up, some of the big time, aggressive travel hackers do 20 to 30 credit cards a year. That starts to add up really quickly.
Yeah. And it's something that when you're kind of like raised and people talk about points, they're like, it's not worth it. You just, it might take you 10 years to get enough to buy like a cassette player. You're like, well, that's stupid. But then the way you approach it with, again, travel hacking, that term, but when you approach it that way, you realize there's so much value to be gained, to be gained without a whole lot of effort. Because the way I kind of view it is you're already spending money. But if we could just add a layer of added benefits between, your money going out and your money paying whatever you're trying to pay for, why wouldn't you do it? It's such a simple thing. And this is something that I did myself, obviously. And I was able to take a week. This was for 2 people, round trip tickets to Paris for a week, Airbnb apartment, which we were able to cover with points. That cost me $250 in total. And then we did Oregon for a week. That was a rental car. That was, again, an Airbnb cabin, round trip flights. And it was $25, including the rental car, the Airbnb, and being able to see that and experience it for like firsthand really made it click. And I'm like, okay, there's something here. And then, like you said, you can scale it up. That's the cool thing. It's easy to do 1, maybe 2 cards a year, but when you start scaling up to like you said, like 10, 15, sometimes 20, 30 a year, that's when things get really fun. But then I started a business and I started to spend a lot of money with my wholesale Amazon business. And this is when I reached out to you as like, hey, what else is there business wise? How can I take advantage of these business cards? And you really opened my eyes that half the time you don't even, or really, I guess most of the time you don't need a business, but having a business is just added benefit. Can you break down how that works in certainly like connecting travel hacking with owning a business that has a high expenditure?
Yeah. So owning a business is a tremendous advantage in this world for 2 reasons. The first, as you mentioned, you can qualify for business credit cards. Most credit cards in the world have a business version. So that effectively doubles the amount of cards and doubles the amount of bonuses that you can get. And then also to your comment about like not needing to own a business, like there's no legal requirement to have like a conventional like brick and mortar, we have a tax ID business in order to get business credit cards. Like if you have like a side hustle, like you drive for Uber or you have an Amazon fulfillment business, or in many cases, like even if you have work related expenses, like you're a consultant that travels for work and you have to pay for travel and get reimbursed, like those are all things that can qualify you for business credit cards. So that's advantage number 1. And then number 2 is that in most cases, businesses have a much higher level of spend than the average person. So if you're buying, $5,000, $10,000 worth of stuff on Amazon every month for your wholesale, put that on even like a basic credit card and, a basic travel credit card, you're going to be earning, a pretty substantial amount of points just by moving your spend through that card. So you pair those 2 things together. Plus, of course, you have all the benefits of anyone else with the personal cards, and you can start to accomplish some amazing travel goals without virtually any work at all.
Yeah, and a lot of people, I feel like, get turned off by the spend $3,000 in 3 months, spend $5,000 in 3 months kind of stipulations, which you have to meet that minimum spend to get that sign up bonus. But really, when you break down how you can effectively use that, just as a person, it's really not that hard to do for most people.
Like this, and of course, the secret sauce to all of this is you can't let these credit cards change your spending patterns.
Right.
If you open a card and you have to spend $3,000 in 3 months to earn the bonus, and you decide, I probably should go and buy that $1,000 suit just to earn these points, that's how you get yourself into trouble. And that's why this exists, right? They put these offers out there because a lot of people, unfortunately, will open them. They'll rack up, more debt than they can pay back. They start accruing interest. And that, of course, interest to you is profit to a credit card company. So they use these points almost like Chuck E. Cheese uses tickets to get, kids to spend more money. Same idea. So you have to be careful. But as long as you're not changing your lifestyle at all, and you can, as you mentioned, just kind of fit these spending requirements and all that kind of stuff in with your day-to-day life, you come out ahead.
And that's really how I've approached it too, because even being younger when I first got into it, having 40, 60 grand in available credit, it's a little concerning. But when you approach it as this is a tool to get free travel, then it's not tempting because you're not walking around with a wallet filled with 10, 15 credit cards. Like, oh, which one should I rack up today?
Right.
The way I kind of approach it is I have a jar and I'm like, there they are. And I use it solely to be able to get those points and travel for free. I just booked a trip last minute to Massachusetts to work with my co-founder in person. Use points. It was $12 round trip. I mean, it's great. And there's things that are changing all the time. Like yesterday, Venture got bumped a little bit, which was fantastic. So I picked that guy up. And when you're able to spend, even $5,000 a month on inventory with your business, plugging in different cards to reach those sign up bonuses is super easy, which is basically what I did. Like there's SPG, the personal, and then there's the business. Well, I was able to get both, and those points are incredibly valuable. So being able to double up on those guys, really get more value just from the amount of money you spend is kind of important. And I know there's certain cards that will give you preference for running advertising or certain business expenses that they might give you 2-3x points. Can you break down the different kind of cards? Because I know there's bank cards, there's airline cards. Can you break down how that works?
Basically, there's two different categories of travel rewards credit cards. There's what we call like airline specific or travel specific cards, which would be like the American Airlines card or the Hyatt credit card. Like if it has the name of an airline or hotel, it earns points that are tied to that airline or hotel. And you can sometimes redeem them on like partners and such, but they're way more limited because they're tied with one airline. Versus you have the other category, which is what we call transferable points. And that's cards like Chase Sapphire Preferred, or now the Capital One Venture as of a couple of days ago, where they earn points that are being held with the bank, and you can transfer them to a number of different airlines or hotel partners. So you almost want to think about those cards as like if you play Uno, like that's the card that says choose your own color. Like, you need yellow. Okay, I'm going to decide these points are yellow today. And you can transfer them to a number of different places, which opens up options. So the transferable points are almost always the best move. Versus if you're putting, everyday spend on like a United card or an American card, you're just trapping yourself. In terms of like the bonus categories for business, yes, there's a number of cards that have some great ones. Like the one that we use for the blog is the Chase Inc. Preferred. Gives you 3 times points on online advertising, which we do a lot of, like with Facebook and Google. Comes with a number of other benefits. I'm not going to go through the whole ad here on the podcast, but it's loaded with fantastic benefits. The points are super valuable. We can transfer them to a dozen different airlines and hotels. That's the best card for almost all business owners, in my opinion.
And I like the way you approach points in general. And this is something that I learned from you a long time ago is it's cool if you have just this one trip you want to plan and you make that work and you just get the points you need. But you approach it a little different. You say, why not just have a bank filled with points so whenever you want, you can go?
Exactly. Yeah. The analogy I make for that is always like the NFL draft. I find that most people can somewhat identify with like, how does that work? Right. So let's say that you have like the 3rd overall pick in the first round and your team doesn't have a kicker. Like, would you draft a kicker? Like, I mean, you need it, right?
Right.
No, that'd be really dumb. Like, you can get one of those later. don't always go for what you immediately need. Go for the highest value.
Right.
Even if you have a good quarterback, there's an amazing quarterback at 3, draft him. And that's how it should be with credit cards. And as you kind of mentioned, people will kind of think like, okay, I'm going to a wedding next month. I'm staying at a Hyatt there. If I open the Hyatt credit card, maybe I can use points for that. Yes, you can. But you'd be passing on offers that have much more upside without that kind of immediate use of them. So always go for the higher value, not the immediate use.
And every point, or different kind of points, should I say, have different dollar values, whether it's 1, 2, 3 cents per point. So there are ones that are worth more than others. So just because it's 100,000 points doesn't necessarily mean it's better than something that's 50 or 75,000 points, because it might be valued much higher as well.
Exactly.
Which that's where it gets like slightly detailed and a bit, like when you really start to get super strategic. Haven't been able to get to that point, but
yeah. And most people don't have to, as long as you just do 5 minutes of research or just ask someone who would know, you won't get trapped to that. Different types of points are just like different foreign currencies. Would you rather have 10,000 Mexican pesos or 5,000 US dollars? Right? I'll take the US dollars all day. This trick has been played on playgrounds everywhere by 5th graders trading 2 pennies for $1 of a 2nd grade, right? So that's how that works. So you get a lot of people who jump at like the 100,000 point Hilton offers, the 70,000 point Delta offers, and they assume that is a great deal. And really, those cards are middle of the road at best. So
and you realize you can't do as much with those points as you could with less other points.
Exactly. They know that, and they do that on purpose. That's why they're, why would you want 50,000 Chase points when you can have 100,000 Hilton points?
So in terms of where people should get started and how they can start going down this path, regardless of if they want to scale it out or just get one card, what do you suggest they kind of do first?
Well, I mean, other than shamelessly plugging my own site, design it for that at 10x Travel. I mean, a lot of people are on Reddit. There's a subreddit called Churning, strange name, but that's what they went with. And that is basically like the travel hacking subreddit. And that's a great place to start. Just watch what people do and why they do it. Mm-hmm. The great thing about this world is that you can exactly copy like experts' moves, because there's, only so much variability to all of this. So if you see that, in your case, you took a trip to Paris for a week, someone could exactly replicate that entire trip using the exact same cards and the exact same points.
Yeah. And what you guys do a good job of is highlighting that on 10xtravel.com, where here's how this couple took a honeymoon worth tens of thousands of dollars. Here's what they actually paid. Here's proof of what they paid. And here's the points and cards that they used to get there. You can do the exact same thing. And here's how. Yeah.
We try to do that every Friday. Reader success stories. Just kind of break it down, give them a blueprint. And then we also have like a new series of articles we're doing, like how to get to X destination using points.
Yeah, these are really good too.
City. Yeah, and we go like really in depth. Like here's 8 different ways to fly to Hong Kong using points.
That's insane.
Yeah, we make it as easy as we possibly can. Using points looks intimidating, and we use all these like acronyms and terms that sound kind of strange, but if you give it like a slow read, it's actually way, way easier than it looks.
Yeah, it's actually super simple when you do it one time and it worked. You're like, oh, okay, I just do the same thing like 5 or 6 more times if I want.
Exactly.
And then see what you can do. So for anybody who wants to get into this, whether it's for personal reasons or their business, which I'm going to highlight heavily because I think it's a huge opportunity, especially with what we do with Amazon Wholesale and the amount of spending we're doing, even if you're getting started, is go to 10xtravel.com. Bryce has an amazing Facebook group, by the way, of people who are passionate about this, people who are getting started, who have been doing it for a little while as well. And people are so open to helping out and saying, hey, here's kind of what I'm thinking about doing. What do you guys think? And I've done this a few times myself where like, hey, that's not really the best use of those points. Why don't we do it this way? That way you get to at least keep more of your points and maybe get 2 or 3 flights instead of just the one. So make sure you go to 10xtravel.com. Bryce has an amazing book that I highly recommend. Actually 2, because the actual credit score one that you have, when I went through that thing is amazing.
Thank you.
I learned so much about a credit score that I didn't understand. And now when I'm speaking to people about, how travel hacking works and the credit score, I feel like I actually know what I'm talking about. It breaks down how your score actually works, what matters more than others, and how really what travel hacking allows you to do is ultimately get better credit scores over time as well, which I've personally been able to experience and enjoy. I've got like 22 accounts right now. It's great.
Yeah.
People freak out. They're like, oh my God, you have like 16 cards. I'm like, yeah, but you don't understand the benefits.
Right. Yeah. Most people's advice on credit is terrible. But yeah, I mean, you're right. Yeah, I have the 2 books, and the one on travel hacking is actually free. Talked about earlier how the affiliate relationships make that work. The credit one's like $50, which, if you have bad credit and I can fix it for $50, you'd be crazy not to take that. But yeah, I mean, and I also need to say there's a number of other sites out there that charge for like these premium courses, like $300. Like, please don't buy that.
Ty Lopez came out with one from like some 19-year-old kid. I was like, I wonder how much he's going to charge. $1,000. All right.
Yeah, we when that came out, a lot of the travel bloggers in space, we of course talk to each other and stuff.
Yep.
And that was like the laughing joke, really, like kind of still is, because first the advice that he presents is awful. Like it's just terrible card choices, like aggressive use of tactics that could result in bad things. It's horrible. And then we saw the price tag and we're like, oh my God, please don't buy this.
Yeah. I mean, especially when your site gives this stuff away, like you teach how to do this for free. Like that's the cool thing. You can go to your site, break down exactly how to do this. And once a month too, you publish, hey, here's the best points right now, because points do fluctuate. And so if you're like, I don't know what card I should get, well, you can, regardless of what time, of the year it is, you can go to your site and say, okay, these are the best ones this month, and here's why. And you break down, here's why these are great. And so there's more context. And so it's not just you picking things because somebody told you to, it's you're teaching why those things are good. So over time, you start to understand them a bit better. Exactly.
Yeah. So you shouldn't have to pay for this type of stuff, whether it's my site or others. I mean, there's, more than a dozen of us who do this, but please do not buy those types of courses.
Yeah. It's not worth the money. Save that for actual travel. And I promise you won't need much of it. So
exactly.
That's great. Well, Bryce, thank you so much for taking the time and introducing this audience to travel hacking and how it works, and really how we can plug that into their business so they can get even more value outside of just being a business owner.
Yeah. Hey, so appreciate you having me on. Glad to hear that things are going well.
Yeah.
And appreciate the time.
Awesome. Thanks, Bryce.
Thank you.
Before we leave, I have a huge ask. If you enjoyed this podcast and you got value from it, leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. The way we're able to have more impact on more sellers is by getting in front of them. We can do that by having more reviews and getting pushed to the top of iTunes podcasts. So leave us a review and let us know what you think of the podcast.